Hello and welcome to our next episode of the DevOpsSpeakeasy. I hope that we are live at JFrog. And you can see us now. And yeah, I'm a little bit excited. We didn't do it for a while, but hey, my name is Baruch. I'm the Chief Sticker Officer and Head of DevOps Advocacy at JFrog. With me, my usual co-host, Kat Kosgorov. Hello, Kat, Developer Advocate at JFrog. Look how our production actually improves. Now we have our Twitter handles right there. In some point of time, they will annoy you. I will take them down. But for now, in your face, follow up right now. And today with us, we have an amazing guest, a longtime friend, multiple time speaker at Swamp Up, including the 2020, the one that is coming right up to us. Robert, welcome to the DevOpsSpeakeasy.
Why, thank you. And look, you're doing fine. You're doing great. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Dad.
It warms my heart. Robert, who are you?
I'm just some guy who likes to leave the office on time. So I like to automate everything I do. I'm very lazy, impatient, full of hubris, like all good software engineers.
Who said that? The founder of the guy that created Perl?
That's right, Larry Wall.
Yeah.
Point for Cat. Look, I'm a recovering software configuration manager. That's what we used to call that build person. And, along the way, founded a company with some buddies. First one was Furnace, installer for Java application servers. And now we have a company called Liquibase, which automates database schema change.
Automates database schema change.
I know, right? Doesn't sound sexy.
Yeah, I mean,
3 a.m.
Why do we even care? Kat, is automating database schema change excites you?
Yeah, it does. My first real tech job actually was as a database administrator, and I think I will have nightmares about this until the day I die. I was working for an independent video rental store in current year. Like this was not decades ago. Place is still open, like 40,000 titles versus what you were used to at Blockbuster, which was around 600. And my first thing was moving them off of their very, very, very old in-house server, which was running, I shit you not, this was like 2009. It was running Windows 98. Seriously. And migrating that machine and that database onto server 2008 R2 was one of the worst things I've had to do in my entire life. And I understand that I still would probably have to do that manually today because we were dealing with like differing data formats at the time. But I just don't want to have to change a database schema automatically ever, or like manually ever again. It sucked. I was there until 6 a.m. I had to do it overnight.
Yeah, it's no fun. The fun stuff is writing the code. The fun stuff is evolving that application, adding features, moving fast. The fun stuff is not writing a ticket and waiting for a DBA to look at it and then tell you something's wrong. Meanwhile, you're like two sprints ahead and you got to open that old sprint up, fix it, and then do a new release. It's just the way we've been managing database schema change is completely incongruous with what we're doing with the other parts of the organization in DevOps. And William Gibson said, the future's already here. It's just not evenly distributed. And, we just need to help out the other parts of the application stack. We're nailing this stuff on the app side. App dev's nailing this. But we need to get our other folks, because it's not dev and a little bit of ops. It's DevOps.
Yeah, that's true. It is. It's got to be like both sides meeting in the middle, or it doesn't really work. Sometimes one side of the equation might have to like have a really strong back and like hard carry for a minute, but that shouldn't be just the way, you know.
And
it's got to be give and take.
That's teamwork. I mean, you know, the whole, sometimes one part of the team's got to work hard, the other time, you know, another part. The issue here is that right now DBAs are shared data services teams. And this is especially bad in large organizations. So big banks, big insurance.
Yeah.
They're just getting crushed because on the application development side of the house, they're like, oh, I'm doing the DevOps. This is what we're doing, you know? And nobody told the DBA. So now they're getting crushed with all these tickets. Where the hell is this stuff coming from?
Yeah, they can't move at the same speed.
Yeah. And so, you know, a herd is only as fast as its slowest member. And we got to help them out.
Oh yeah, about the herd is only as fast. Let's use another analogy, and that's the manufacturing and optimizing and bottleneck and the goal and all those great references. I think when it comes to evolving databases, this is the bottleneck in so many organizations, and people really want to close their eyes, ignore, and pretend that it's not there.
Yeah, you know, it's like until you have a heart attack, you're really not interested in working out and eating right. But then once you have it, and so right now, I mean, you know, frankly, everyone in the world, our entire economy is going through a heart attack. You know, there's been a huge just shock to the system. And companies are trying to get faster, and they're realizing that they can't. They got to fix it. So whether it's disrupting the typical going to the office, kind of how we do our jobs, to how we get software out the door, and how our customers interact with us, we've got to get better. Now, there's a lot of companies today that are just killing it right now, because they made investments in DevOps. They did it 3, 4, 5 years ago. But that doesn't mean they can't do it now. And in fact, I would argue that in times of stress, that is the time to make change. If you've been wanting to adopt DevOps, you've been wanting to move your organization forward, now is the time to do it, because frankly, those leaders, those executives that were like, yeah, we'll do it later. Yeah, now they're kind of interested in that stuff. Now you got their attention.
Yeah, I worked in the disaster recovery industry for a long time, actually in the data backup industry. We were there to, you know, make sure that you didn't have a situation where you needed a disaster recovery. But the number of phone calls we got from people who had just gone through kind of like widespread failure, they'd been hit by a crypto locker or whatever, and they wanted us to recover their data when they hadn't backed it up first, was astonishing. Like, businesses back then didn't really give a shit about having like redundant offsite backups until, oh no, everything's gone and now my company can't function.
Yeah, well, you know, the people that you're so right. The people that are very militant about seatbelts probably been in a car accident.
Yeah.
Humans were just big dumb animals.
We are not.
Just, you know, look, ice cream and queso, it tastes so good, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, you might want to get some vegetables in there. You might want to take a walk around the block. You know, it's look, some of the stuff that we need to do to stay alive is not fun. So your choice is to suck it up and do it, or make it fun. And I think that applies to what we're trying to do with DevOps. We're just trying to get the software out the door faster. We're trying to measure, you know, how quickly we can get it out. We're measuring lead time. We're measuring success of deployments. We don't care about when we deploy to dev and test. We only care about production because our customers only care about that. And so what we need to do is really focus on these things so that we can improve the organization, improve those software delivery outcomes, like Dr. Forsgren talks about. so that we can improve the company, not so we can be like Amazon and Netflix,
Yep.
because you ain't. All right, that ain't not going to happen. However, you could certainly be better than your competition in the trucking industry or banking or whatever.
Yeah, facts. Like, I think Lyft, maybe it was Lyft, a couple years ago, they were like, hey, our whole thing is like 30,000 microservices. And everybody was like, that seems fucking crazy. Like, that's excessive. You're insane. How do you manage that? They went like too hard on it. Wow, I can't gesture that way or I hit the box.
That preventing you from hitting me, so that's okay.
Well, sometimes you need it. Everybody was like, that's crazy. Maybe you went a little bit too far. And then like 6 months ago or something, they were like, hey, it turns out that we went too far and that wasn't actually the solution. There's a wall that you hit with complexity where it's no longer helpful. And it turns out like 30,000 microservices was that wall. So
good for them.
The problem with it is that they, from the time they did it, and we were very proud about it, to the time that realized that maybe it was a mistake, they preached that in tons of conferences, meetups, articles, social media, and what's not. And although there were some people that applied some critical thinking to it, the majority of the industry said, "Wow, this is amazing. We need to do the same."
Well, we also thought smoking used to be good for you.
That's true.
And it's not this.
That's true. Are we currently on eggs are good for you or bad for you? Because we also kind of like flip-flop on that.
I like them.
I eat eggs, but like,
what did we decide it's good or bad?
Eggs.
We can't decide. It's like every decade we flip-flop on whether they're bad for you or not.
There is more than eggs. There is butter. There is the fat, good fat, bad fat. There is counting calories, good idea, bad idea. I mean, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Are you driven by the data, or are you driven by, some crap that you read in some BS, clickbait rag? I mean, are you really thinking about this? Like at the time, yes. Is 30,000 microservices superior to a monolith? Yes, it is. Is
it the best option?
Exactly. It's like, look, it's like, okay, I'm going to the gym, I'm working out, and I'm doing, jazzercise in the pool. Okay. Maybe as a 46-year-old male, that's not the best thing I need to do. But you know what? God damn it, I'm going to the gym, and I look awesome in that little Speedo. Okay, it's my mankini. Looks awesome. All right, that's great. Good for you, Robert. You're working out. Maybe you might want to do something else. Take that next step, and that's what they did. It is okay to make these decisions and these claims, as long as you're willing to open your mind and say, hey, you know what? We've rethought. Our thinking has evolved, and that's the good thing. We're going to go to where the data drives us, not to where we feel good about it. And there was a time where people said, oh, well, we're just all buying software from this one vendor. And look where that got us. All right. But we learned, we evolved, and that's okay. It's okay. But to be stuck and entrenched in old thinking, that is not okay.
It's not okay. And I also don't think that even 30,000 microservices had been like the best way to handle it instead of 1,000 microservices or whatever. The difference is that that's Lyft. It's a massive, massive company with a lot of moving parts involved that made 30,000 microservices seem attractive. But you can't, if you run a much smaller software company, a startup with 12 employees, you can't necessarily directly apply what works for Lyft to your system, or you're probably actually making things harder. A monolith is probably still not the answer, I guess, but the point is, there is a lot of hype in this industry, and
Oh, yeah, for sure.
sometimes I think it gets a little bit out of control.
Yeah, look at the whole just Docker and Kubernetes thing. What was it? It was Corey Quinn tweeted out that I forget. I don't think he did it, but somebody else did it. But it was the movie where Hitler's screaming in German, and then
One of those
subtitles, and it was dogging on. There was a line from it. It's like, okay, whoever has not run Kubernetes in production, please leave the room. Everybody leaves. And then, dogging on them like, you clowns, installing open source stuff in production just because you read it on Hacker News. And a lot of this stuff it comes down to resume-driven development, not test-driven development, but resume-driven development. A developer says, I want to mess around with this stuff. And we hear this a lot. Like, and I'm sure, you guys over at JFrog hear this, like, oh, well, we can do that. We can build that. And we certainly hear that at Liquibase. And my response to it is, well, why haven't you?
Yeah, just do it.
Do it. And everybody seems to like, oh, this is cool. I want to work on this technology. So I'm going to whipsaw the organization and browbeat everybody into allowing me to learn on this thing. And maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work, but they don't have repercussions. And that's my main, my real challenge with how we're doing development today. We are not allowing our developers, one, the freedom to decide what they build, and we're not allowing them the freedom to, or not assigning them the consequences, good or bad, for that choice. So, for example, somebody makes a decision to build on some tech and it fails. Well, what are we learning from that? Are we improving from that? Or are we just shoving that over to the operations team and having them deal with it? Oh, I just chose this new data store, this new database, and I built the app on it, and I'm done. And now it's operations problem. And I've always been a fan of you build it, you run it. That if you're going to build it, you should have the responsibility for making sure it stays up in production. And I think that changes behavior and it forces people to make the right decisions. I think the reason why Lyft came back from the 30,000 is like, yeah, we're not getting any work done because our developers are focusing on keeping the 30,000 up. And that's good, It
is good. Yeah, because it probably was a night. I'd want to have to manage that. There's no universe in which I would want to. Baruch, would you want to deal with that?
No, of course. I think some people, the really luminaries of microservices architecture, actually speak about the trade-off a lot. That yes, it simplifies your. It gives you a lot of benefits. You can move faster. You can decouple stuff, but it actually complicates the ops part a lot because you need now to establish connections between all of them, and this is obviously multiplies as you add microservices, but somehow in the hype. Obviously, the downsides are forgotten, and everybody speak about how great microservices are, actually not thinking about the trade-off that is built into it. And it's true not only for microservices; it's true for every hype-ish technology. It's true for Kubernetes. It's true for everything.
Well, there's what is it? The hype cycle. The trough of disillusionment. That's my favorite part. And we certainly see this over at Liquibase. You can integrate Liquibase to Spring Boot so that when that microservice starts up, it's going to connect to the database and make some schema changes. That's cool, all right? If there's no change, don't do anything. But if there is, before that service boots up, it's going to change the schema. All right, that works. But we run into issues. One is what happens if the service crashes. and you wind up getting into this loop that Liquibase cannot update the database. What happens if it's a really long update? Like you messed up and it's doing a DML lock on the table and it's just sitting there. And it's taken, it's taken 20 minutes for this service to start because it's taken 20 minutes for this this schema change to happen, this DML, DDL update that I'm doing. Okay. Well, a lot of the operation stuff for deploying microservices would look at that and say, oh, something bad happened, let's roll it back. And so, we recommend, use it in conjunction, but do it differently. Like in your CD stuff, run Liquibase first, then deploy the stuff. So, every time there's a new rush to a technology, there's always going to be growing pains. There's always going to be a break-in period. But we always forget that. It's like we get all excited. It's like going on a first date. Like, oh, it's so wonderful. And, we totally forget that, this other person it might be a jackass. And okay, we see past stuff. Then date 2, 3, stuff starts to get real and you decide if you want to do 4 or 5. We have to understand that that's technology and we can't say, all right, we're going to do this. We're basing the whole thing, we're betting our whole company on this stuff. Remember, there's an MBA case study on this example, and it's Zynga and AWS. And I think AWS has it on their site about the bad choice that Zynga made building their own private cloud and missed out on the whole mobile gaming explosion. They were big with Facebook games.
Farmville, yeah, I remember the collapse of Zynga. Yeah, that was it was very dramatic.
And it's because they were like, oh man, AWS is so expensive. We don't want to give these guys money. We can do this ourselves. And, they shifted the whole organization. What they should have done is like, okay, let's keep doing AWS, but let's have a tiger team. Let's have a small team try to do this. See if they could come up with another way. Just dip your toe in. Sure. Come on, at least check how deep the water is before you dive in. But everybody falls in love. They see it on Hacker News. It's great. They got the T-shirt and the sticker on their laptop. It all falls apart.
Yeah, I think you see a lot with JavaScript web frameworks.
Well, there's only one, right? Maybe 2.
Which one are you talking about?
I mean, it's all jQuery in the end of the day. But it's true about experimentation in general. But I think that's kind of the opposite, right? So what we are saying is that they didn't jump on this hype bandwagon when they actually should have, and this is different, but also fascinating. It's like, okay, what about those people that will say, well, all this microservices hype or the cloud hype or the Kubernetes hype or DevOps hype, it's all bullshit. It will pass. People just speak about it. People speak about that in conferences, but we really shouldn't. We really shouldn't kind of get into it. And what we need to make sure is that we do what's checked and true, and we shouldn't bunch to the hype. And then in the end of the day, it turns out that the hype is the real thing, and then it's too late.
Well, that's the other side of the pendulum. All right, so one side is we're all in, we're dive headfirst into 6 inches of water, and the other side is we're not doing anything. We're good. And I think what the 3 of us are proposing is just try a little bit.
Just a little bit. Just go out on a date, man.
Exactly. Go see, it's just coffee. It's fine. Public place, during the day.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
lots of people around.
Tell a friend where you're.
Yeah.
This is a great analogy, and I like it, but frankly, I don't think that experimentation in IT is as easy as experimentation with dating in real life. You just because the feedback loop is much longer, You go to coffee, is a fast decision, it's a fast action, and then you can have a clue if you like the other person or not. With IT, you will get feedback whether something that you did is good or not so good, how long it took to Lyft to actually realize that their microservices were too much. This is how long the feedback of experimentation in IT takes.
Well, yeah, it is. You're right. It is a longer horizon than coffee, but what I would propose is rewarding certain teams. So the four horsemen of KPIs that Dr. Forsgren talks about, right? So we got number of changes, lead time, success rate, and what's the other one? Just
so there's time, you said, deployment frequency, failure rate, and time to restore service.
There you go. There you go. MTTR, mean time to recovery. Thank you. So you got those four. All right. So what I would propose is say, okay, these are the ones we care about. Whoever gets the highest, the best KPIs over this month, you get to go play with something cool because you've proven that you have the skills and the ability to make shit happen. Well, let's reward them. Let's give them the opportunity to go look at new technology and try them out, because I don't want the folks that are kind of bringing up the rear, they don't have time to experiment. They need to fix their stuff. They need to do some work. But the folks that are improving, let's reward them. And the way you reward them is go explore new technology, pick a project, apply it, see what happens, and let it go.
I consider that a job perk. If I saw that in a job description, I think I would consider that a job perk. The opportunity to just work on a fun side project using new technologies on company dime for doing my job well.
Yeah. You've earned the right to choose. And that, it's not, we're not competing for the best and brightest members of our team with snacks in the break room anymore.
Yeah.
So we got to find out something else. So why not this?
Yeah, break room snacks are like a standard, honestly. That's just
they never beat what I got here,
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's
my home snack break room situation is pretty good. So
So I mean that's what I would propose. It's try that. You want to try and explore new technologies and see what happens. See if KPIs continue to go up and to the right. If they don't, then you need to figure out why that's the case. When you hit the first, it's like, what was that from Adventure Time? The first step in getting kind of good at something is sucking at something.
Sucking at it, yeah.
Yeah. So you got to try it first. You got to be bad and you learn. And so we got to give people an opportunity to improve. And we've got to allow this, a pathway for new technology to come in. But to say, oh, every single application in this company is now running on Kubernetes, make it happen. Well, why? I mean, I've got this app running on AIX WebSphere talking to DB2. I haven't touched it in 5 years, but it works. So let's just leave it alone, man. Leave it alone. And let's go into the new stuff.
Yeah, I think it's to leave technology like that alone for too long, because then we get into situations like, the various Department of Labors across the country needing to scramble to hire COBOL developers, which my dad was very excited about. My dad is an old engineer, and he was very excited.
We can only solve the problems that are in front of us.
Yeah, that's true.
And right now, it's like, okay, yeah, we've got these new requirements, all these federal programs that are coming out, and we've got to update this stuff. All right, well then let's update it. But 6 months ago, who cared about that? And yes, I understand things change, and we got to be flexible and do those sorts of things. Yeah, we got to update, the California, birth certificate so Elon's kid can get a weird character in their name. So that's great. That's important. But I think you got to be flexible. And if there is an app, like I got a lot of customers that are begrudgingly tied to Sybase, a lot of banks.
Okay.
And and they're like, man, we got to get off Sybase. Why? Because we don't like it. Well, don't build any new stuff. When was the last time you updated that app? Like a year and a half ago. All right, don't worry about it, man.
Yeah.
Well, we got to move it. No. Are you going to refactor it? Are you going to rebuild it? Are you going to put that business process in a new application? Well, eventually. Well, then do it then. Don't move it. Shut it down. But I think shutting down, this was DevOps Enterprise Summit 2 years ago. And so it was two folks from Nike. Who's their chief digital officer?
Ooh, I don't know.
And then I remember their chief privacy officer, Ann Bradley. And the two of them got up and they talked about how to kill a system. And I thought it was the best presentation I'd seen ever. Because Ann is a lawyer. She's like, yeah, she knows tech, but she's not slinging code, And she's a big fan of privacy. Obviously, she's chief privacy officer. And, the chief digital officer went to the team and said, hey, we got to shut down this app. And every time it was on death's door, it would breathe new life into it. And so for the tech reasons, they wanted to get rid of it, and they couldn't. They couldn't make it go away. And so what they did was she reached out to Ann and said, Ann, can you help me? What is the GDPR implication of this app?
Spicy.
Yeah. And so she said, well, it's based on percentage of revenue, and we're Nike. So it would cost us $1 billion. And I put our chances of getting busted at 50-50. So expected value, $500 million. And so the next time the chief digital officer wanted to kill the app, somebody pushed back and she said, fine. So you're going to have to go get budget approval for $500 million to keep this alive, because that's our exposure from our chief privacy officer.
Good strategy to kill something you want dead.
But the point is that it's not the tech. You can make all sorts of wonderful choices and hard arguments, but somebody is just going to dig their heels in until you get Mama Bear to show up all angry to straighten them out. And so my lesson here for the folks listening is that sometimes you need to go get help from like your CFO, somebody that's not a techie to make that smart business decision. You've got the tech reason to either stay on Sybase or kill it. All right, fine. But make your tech case, but then go get help. Go get help from that CFO, chief privacy officer, somebody who's not a techie. And when you start bringing up fines,
yeah, once the money guys more serious.
Oh yeah, that's
taking that.
I think this is great, and there are some very nice books that I particularly fond of. One of them is War, Peace, and IT from Mark Schwartz, talking about basically how to sell DevOps for those people. And this is a big part of it, actually showing how the IT department affects the bottom line in places which are not IT related, like privacy and CFO, and the other way around. So yeah, it's definitely a big deal. Do we want to? Yeah, we want to. Let's talk about coronavirus, COVID-19, and DevOps.
Fun. This sounds like a very happy conversation.
Well, how do you think the outbreak is impacting a business's decision to implement DevOps practices? Is it a priority now, or are we scared of doing something new when everything is already kind of unstable?
Well, it's certainly not that. All right. Anybody that is burying their head in the sand right now is going to get run over. So there are a large number of companies that invested in DevOps 3, 4, 5 years ago. And the ones that were banks that did so killed it on the payroll protection program. They were able to get it out the door faster than everybody else. And, one that I talked to about this, they said, look, they viewed it as their civic duty. All right. So US bank. And so I'm sure this is played out all over the world. All the governments are trying to help people out with their programs. But in the US, they had said, this bank said, it is our civic duty to do this. All right, we need to be good citizens, good corporate stewards. And so one, they had a commitment to do it. And two, they had previously invested in DevOps and they were able to do it. So you got to have both the will to get it done and the ability to get it done. What is my dad always said, wish in one hand, shit in the other.
I've never heard that before.
Well, I live in Texas, so I got a lot of them. But it's look, you have to have the ability to make this happen. So there are companies right now that invested in the past in this stuff, and they're doing well. All right, they're flexible, they're lean and mean. They can make stuff happen. Then there's the other folks that say, crap, we missed the boat. And another one of my favorite sayings is the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So the companies that are looking at this and saying, okay, we've got to get more efficient. We have to do the same with less, or more with the same amount, or more with less. All right, these are not fun conversations.
No, they're not.
The solution is always efficiency. It is not work harder. It is always work smarter. And the managers, the leaders that say, well, you just got to want it more. Like that jerk on ESPN, Skip Bayless. He always says this, like, oh, well, that team wanted it more. Like, bullshit, Skip. Everybody wants it. Everybody wants
it the same amount, man.
Don't tell me that like LeBron didn't want it bad enough last season. That's why the Lakers didn't make the playoffs.
Ridiculous.
No, he always wants it. That's why he's LeBron. All right. So I don't buy into this. You just got to want it. You have to provide your team with the tools. So if you're in a company and you've been trying to make this happen, I would argue never waste a crisis. This is the time to push. Well, if we had done this 2 years ago, 6 months ago, when I had presented this idea, maybe it's time to look at this again. This is the time to push for new initiatives, or maybe it's time to go find somebody else, find another place that can appreciate that, because there are companies that are hiring right now.
That's true.
Doing well. We're hiring at Liquibase, and so it is, there are folks that are taking advantage of this, and it's up to you to decide if you want to be one of those folks or put your head in the sand.
That's very fair. And honestly, maybe this is a result of my age, but I cannot imagine developing something new without using like DevOps tools and practices. I don't understand why you would do it any other way. And I would have said that before I worked for a DevOps company, to be clear.
Yeah.
I use CI tools with my like shitty hacky home projects. I do. Like it's crazy low effort for me to set that up. So I just do it because I would rather spend like an hour setting this up on the front end of my project and not have to deal with manually running tests or deploying ever again than I would spending, 3 minutes doing that literally every time I change something. And I do not understand the concept of operating in any other way.
That's true, but here you have your trade-offs bite again, right? Why would I do something in 6 minutes manually when I can spend 6 hours failing automating it? It's also very, very about us. So yeah, there are trade-offs everywhere. But it's interesting how can COVID-19 actually help pushing companies into digital transformation when it actually requires activation energy, it requires investments, and obviously it's a nature for a company to be more cautious on the investment side now. I mean, in the end of the day, the results are not immediate. So maybe instead of doing all these DevOps transformation, I will just fire a bunch of people and save some money, being a devil's advocate here.
Because it's not the last time we're going to have a tragedy. I turned 18 in the middle of the 2008 financial crisis. So I became an adult in the middle of a widespread clusterfuck. And now I'm 30 in the middle of another widespread clusterfuck. And you clearly cannot rely on us not having a serious problem that negatively impacts business every once in a while.
Yeah, I think me and Robert, we have one more crisis to go, and you probably have two more.
Yeah, well, I got bad news for you. They're going to have more than one. All right, to leave Nassim's Black Swan, the whole thing about Black Swans, they increase frequency.
Well, I really hope that when we will get to the third one, to our one after next, I wouldn't care anymore.
Just gonna cash it in. I mean, my dad is just smoking weed and watching Desperate Housewives. He's retired. Exactly, he makes soap for fun.
That's me in a crisis after next. Next one we will get, but the next after that, I hope I won't mind anymore.
But look, who's to say look, first of all, I will say this: COVID-19 is a negative black swan. All right, it has been it is a tragedy. It is not a positive black swan like the internet, 1993, World Wide Web. All right, or the iPhone, versus the BlackBerry. All right, those were positive black swans.
Right. This is net awful.
Yeah, but it's your choice if you are going to be
one after next. I wouldn't care anymore.
Just gonna cash it in. I mean, my dad is just smoking weed and watching Desperate Housewives. He's retired. He makes soap for fun.
Be part of the kind of organization that woe is me, hunker down, or you're going to improve. And that's up to you. All right, but understand this: that across the street at your competition, they are trying to improve, and that's it. That is your choice. So you can choose to hunker down and we're just going to wait for this to blow over. Wasn't that line from a zombie movie?
That's from Shaun of the Dead. We're going to go down to the Winchester and have a pint, wait for this to all blow over.
Yeah, it didn't blow over.
It did not blow over.
It never blows over. All right. No. So you need to take action. Are you going to sit on the train tracks and just like, oh, that train will turn. We'll get out of the way.
I don't typically use LinkedIn. Like I have one, obviously, and I respond when I get a notification. It's
never heard of it.
Yeah, it's as far as I can tell, it's Tinder for recruitment.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it's not.
Sounds effective.
But I was on LinkedIn because I got tagged in something, so I'm gonna go look at the notifications on it. And this dude, I say dude, that is a very deliberate choice to use the word dude. This guy was definitely a dude bro. But he went on this like 3-paragraph long rant about how DevOps is a scam and it's a fad and it's all going to blow over. And like, first of all, I hope that he feels like a little bit of an idiot right now. Second of all, bro, it has been 10 years. It has been a decade. Like, it's not a phase, Mom. It's who I am.
Look, you know, responding to jackassery never helps anyone.
I didn't respond. Like, I'm not gonna. There's too much of a chance that he was just like, that was bait.
You gotta understand that a lot of this stuff is just BS. It is either, you know, what's the first step in grief?
Denial.
What is it?
Denial. Yeah. Is it denial or is it anger?
Denial.
The first one is denial.
It's always denial. What's the first step in any 12-step program?
Admitting you have a problem.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Great. It's a fad. Whatever, dude. You know what's, I think this internet thing's going to blow over. You know?
Internet's a fad.
But sometimes, you know, there is a place for older technology. All right. Just ask our airlines with Sabre running on IMS on a mainframe. Okay. Yeah. Shit works. All right.
They work.
And so, you know, look, it is too often technology winds up being a religious decision. We wind up being defined by the little tribe that we put ourselves in. You know, Node.js developer, or am I a Java developer? Am I Go, Kotlin? You know, whatever. Who gives a shit? Just whatever. You know,
whatever. Use the tool that actually works for the job you're trying to do is the thing.
And I get it. You know, it's like teenagers, first time they have sex, they think they invented it and it's everything and awesome and stuff like that. And yeah, okay, kid, it's wonderful. Good for you. I'm so happy. But yeah, you didn't invent it. Okay, so I'm excited that you're excited about Kotlin. I'm excited you're excited about Kubernetes and microservices. But we don't have to apply it everywhere. All right. But also you don't talk shit about somebody who's doing something because you don't see the value in it. Okay, that's cool. You do you, bro. You don't like it, that's fine. But to go on these like rants on, I mean, dude, it's like
it's toxic and it's not actually helpful. And I think it's pervasive in tech. The like toxic shitting on people for like choosing a different stack or a different technology. Like if it doesn't work for you, that's fine. I don't care. It works for me. I like it. Yeah. Why are you so concerned about what the fuck my company is doing?
Well,
if it doesn't affect you. If you think this is a fad, go. I don't care.
Unfortunately, this industry is full of people who got the shit bullied out of them growing up, and so the only way they know to respond is to bully other people.
Yeah,
that's one of the issues we have in tech. It's when I grow up,
I'm gonna be the bully. Damn it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's bullshit. You know, the way you really bully people is you go after the bullies. That's the fun stuff. You know, you get Captain America on that shit and you straighten out some ass. That's how you do it. If you really want to bully, you go after the biggest dude in the schoolyard. Not over DevOps. That's weak. Go all the way, man. Step it up. Yeah. Well, not Bill. Bill's cool.
He's cool now. He didn't used to be. He's definitely cool now.
You know, I remember the 90s, you know, and Satya's now with the, you know, Microsoft loves Linux. Yay! Yeah. Okay, well, you know, open sourcing build tools. Like what? What was it? The second release of the subsystem for Linux on Windows?
I actually love WSL.
It's so dope. After this call, I was going to upgrade to WSL2 this morning, and I was like, "Oh, I got this call. I don't want to jack up my machine, but I'll do it this afternoon."
They did a fantastic job with it. Like it's not the same as developing on Linux, but it's so close. They really did a fantastic job.
Yeah, but there's other tech leaders, and you know, certainly, you know, I'm going to say database vendors primarily because I see them a lot, and two, there's a number of bullies there. All right, and it's not the obvious one. There's a lot.
What's the drama? Spill the tea.
Oracle and Larry and Andy, they're dueling back and forth, Oracle World and reInvent. Those two talking shit about each other.
Do they? That's adorable.
Yeah, and then Dave from Mongo, and I know Dave. Hung out with him at BMC. Big fan of that guy. But then putting a sign up that's like, "Friends don't let friends run RDBMS." Really? I mean, come on, man. But it's like, in tech, there's so much chicken on this bone. We don't have to get into these little camps. We don't have to segment ourselves by tribes. We're all on the same team. We're all trying to make cool software. We all like, odds are we all like Legos. Like, come on.
I was actually a Connects child.
Hey, cool. We like building stuff. That's great.
Yeah, it's just
it is about shit. But there's so much commonality here. We don't have to put ourselves in little tribes. And to poo-poo. The developers don't need to talk, smack about the DBAs. DBAs don't need to do that. What they need to do is get together and help improve. That's how we get better.
Software developers, a lot of them probably don't want to be what a DBA does. I wouldn't want to be a DBA again. So why can't we just like work together, man?
Yeah, kumbaya.
Just be cool.
DevOps better than kumbaya.
But we gotta open this tent, man. We can't just say do the DevOps. We got to do something like, hey, how about we work closer together and get a shorter, smaller feedback loop? So if somebody hates DevOps, let's say, okay, fine, we're not doing DevOps, but let's get rid of the tickets. Let's be driven by pull requests. Let's automate some stuff. Oh, but we're not doing DevOps. No.
It's not DevOps. Of course not. It's automation. It's automation.
Yeah, it's like getting your 3-year-old to eat vegetables. You hide it.
Do you actually have to do that? I don't have kids. I don't know. I liked broccoli.
Not anymore. We were very fortunate, but I've certainly heard from friends with little ones, like only eating yellow food, mac and cheese.
Oh wow.
Bananas.
That's such a specific thing to be weird about, but I guess
kids are weird.
Orange is good for you. Carrots and oranges and all this stuff. Yeah. So what else did we want to talk about? Oh, I wanted to talk about SwampUp, and I wanted to talk about you at SwampUp, Robert. So you are going to speak there. Tell us a little bit about what to expect from your session.
Well, I think one of first of all, thanks for having me.
Of course, I voted for you.
Well, thank you. I was really pushing for JFrog to be a leader at SwampUp and to start doing a cannabis tasting, to be that first tech company.
Okay, yeah.
But folks I chatted with got a little nervous about it. So now it's a moot point because we're not going to Vegas.
We're not going anywhere yet. Well, we can do it at home. Those of us who live in legal states.
We'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Bring your own cannabis.
Yeah, exactly. You do you, whatever. Get you like gin, whiskey, orange juice, tear it up. Tent's big. But it's I think that this is we need to keep all of our artifacts that come out of that CI process. We need to put them in artifact repository like Artifactory. All right. And I'm not just talking about the binary. We need everything that application needs. So if it is, Terraform files, put them in. All right.
Sure.
This is where we control the output because it's just a machine. We don't need to treat our releases like we're making artisanal bespoke beard oil or crap like that. All right. We're not doing that. All right. It's software. save the artisanal nature for, your sourdough bread that you're making at home now. All right. That's the place for it, but it's not with your software. And so we're going to be talking about how do we put that, those database artifacts, how do we treat database code like application code? And what does that look like from a developer's perspective? And what does it look like from a DBA's perspective? How do they get feedback back and forth? How do they help each other out? How do we get to a point where we just hit the big shiny release button and it just happens? Because that's where we're going. And if you're not heading there as a company, you're not going to be around much longer. You're going to JCPenney this stuff.
Well, that makes sense, but then we hit the real problems, and I think one of the biggest real problems is actually database, because state sucks, and database is all about state. How do we migrate? How do we keep backwards compatibility? And now when we test in production and we do progressive delivery and canary deployment and everything, chances that we will have to revert and we will have to implement forwards compatibility for our customers, which already upgraded their clients, but now suddenly the server is going back. This is all nightmare.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's a I guess.
It's hard if you want to maintain old ways of doing business. All right. If you have this different team for database administration and you got this different team for the application, if we've got a line between the two, well, their worldview is inherently different for all the reasons you just said, because of state. All right. With an application, I can blow away the old one, do the new one. I need to roll back, do the reverse. All right, cool. It's super easy. Database, not so much. And so the way we fix that is we can do a couple things. I mean, one, use some kind of tool. Liquibase is one of them, but there are others. Try them out. And to have the developers check in those changes. And so you've got, instead of just blasting out the database change, you're migrating the database, you're evolving it. The other thing that I'm a big fan of is testing those deployments as well. So why can't you take, like, for example, you're running an AWS, you got RDS, all right? Why can't you take an RDS snapshot, create a new database based on that, and then run the migration script to kind of create an ephemeral staging environment? Why not? Why can't you? And you don't need to give it as big of a server. You're not going to be running transactions on it, but just a smoke test. Make sure the deployment worked. We got a positive result from our testing. We feel good about this. Okay, cool. Why can't we do that?
So why people don't do that?
Well, it's not my job, or I'm not being, my KPIs are not aligned to that, or I don't want to, or I'm scared because if I automate this database update, I might automate myself out of a job. These are not technical reasons to not do it. These are dealing with emotion and fear. Well, fear is an emotion, but they're dealing with emotions. And we got to understand and recognize that is a big component to these technical decisions. Reason why somebody's saying we need to stop what we're doing and develop and go. Because somebody really likes it. They're not looking at the business reason for it. And so I think somebody needs to sit down with those teams and say, look, automation isn't a threat. The folks that have automated with Liquibase, those DBAs, I've actually seen, there's the book, Database Reliability Engineering, like Charity Majors was one of the authors on that. And I'm starting to see this title pop up, and that's really cool. Who wants to be a DBA? But a database reliability engineer? Ooh.
That sounds much fancier.
That's exactly as much fancier as site reliability engineer sounds compared to a system administrator.
Yeah. And it's like it comes with its own pair of skinny jeans and a MacBook. or cortado coffee. This is great. I'm totally going to do this. This is dope.
It also probably pays better than a DBA.
Oh,
it's a fancier title.
Yeah, I've had those conversations. Like, hey, how'd this move work out? You get a little more scratch, and like, oh yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing how far a fancy title goes, even if your job duties don't actually change.
I heard from one DBA about this move, and she said, the biggest benefit from this is that I don't have to use Remedy anymore. They're using Remedy for ITSM tickets, and like, yeah, I'm done with that.
I bet Kat has no idea what Remedy is.
Good for you. Good for you.
Well,
dodged a bullet, my friend.
I'm right here with you because I had some tenure in BMC as well, so I know a lot what Remedy is. Yeah. Well, that was a nightmarish, and let's talk about something else. I don't want to finish up with talking about Remedy. That's definitely not a good idea.
One of the things I always say, I mean, look, Liquibase, we sell software just like JFrog does. You guys have Artifactory's open source, Liquibase community's open source. We got paid offerings, all right? And I think one of the things that I've always said that I've been very proud of, and I think JFrog feels the same way, and I'm really curious to hear your take on this, is that we don't sell software. We sell piano recitals, date nights, happy hours, all the crap that you want to do, but you're stuck, moving from Windows 98 to 2008.
2008, yeah.
Yeah, so, and like at the end of the day, you guys at JFrog hear this a lot, right? You guys hear about, totally saved my ass. I'm hearing from people that have implemented your software, I'm working so much less, or maybe they're working more, but they get to work on the fun stuff.
We do. I think we actually sell T-shirts here, though. The software is the software sales just fund the T-shirt giveaways. I'm pretty sure that's our whole business model. Like, Baruch, you've been here since like the dawn of time. That's
well T-shirts for sure, and you should see this year's Swamp Up T-shirt. It's absolutely, I haven't seen it yet, and I've worked here. It's legendary. It's amazing. Robert, you might have some problem with it according to the characters on your background. Because
why?
That will be that would be another Marvel
Green Lantern
character.
Yeah, just as long as it's cosmic stuff. That's the stuff I'm down with.
Absolutely. It's super and it's going to be amazing. It's really, really good. So definitely we are in the T-shirt business, but we also in you know what? You remember what this happened to you? Let's try and make sure it won't happen to you in the future. And the problem with that is that when it didn't happen, it's kind of hard to sell. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, how many outages of your production pipeline we prevented? No one knows.
Oh, yeah.
How do you quantify that?
Yeah, it's how many like the guardrail around the Grand Canyon, how many lives has that saved? We'll never know.
Yeah, it's difficult to sell that, but I think we're doing okay at selling it.
Yeah, I think so.
Of course, we're doing okay because people are smart, or some of the people are smart, and they can wrap their hand around this concept of, okay, I had a lot of bad stuff happened, and now I changed something, and now it's less. Probably it has something to do with it. Another hard concept that I find very surprising is that not as my Russian roots led me to believe by the proverb of dumb people learn from their own mistakes and smart people learn from other people's mistakes. It's surprisingly how everybody only learn from their own mistakes, and not because they don't understand the other people actions, but because they really believe that their circumstances are always different. It's not going to happen to me because it's not the same.
Well, we always need organ donors.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's important. That's an important role.
We in Texas, you don't have to wear a motorcycle helmet.
Yeah, it's the same thing in Arkansas.
Yeah. Let freedom ring.
Have fun with that, buddy.
No, but also it also means that it's very, very hard to convince someone that they need something just because someone else. We can provide examples why someone else needed that.
Well, a very wise man in Austin, Texas once said, "Pain is instructive." Do you remember that?
It is instructive, but was it you? Did you say that?
It's Baruch. It was at that right down the street at that conference when you guys were in Austin. What was that 3 years ago? That Greek tragedy play bit.
It was 3 years ago. It was one of our favorite talks of all time. The DevOps in Scale Greek tragedy in 3 acts. There are tons of recording online, so you can go and find one. And one of the taglines of the entire talk is "Pain is instructional," and that's unfortunate because I would love to live in the world when knowledge is instructional or others people experience is instructional, but no. The only thing that people learn best from is actually pain. And that means that they need to have this production pipeline outage once or twice before they realize that it's worth investing in something that will prevent it.
Well, you only do it once. Actually, I was using morning. You want to hear the use case for it?
Always.
So, look, we've got software that we've got to push up to Maven, and there's to do that you have to have signed keys to make certain. You have to have keys so you can sign the jars and say, okay, this is cool, to bring it up, sign in, all that stuff. And so it's a real pain in the ass to set it up. So we just have a Docker container, but of course we can't put this out. We got to put this securely somewhere that only certain people have access. So instead of having, everybody's got their keys and we have to worry about, all right, how do we, somebody leaves the company, we got to shut it down, all this other stuff. So we've got it in a container and all of our build tools for releasing Liquibase and the extensions is in there. And so, we're doing Docker run, putting that URL, and then putting in the command to do the build and do the release. And it is super easy. We don't have to set up dev environments. Anybody can do a release. We can have this automated, and it's just a really good use case. And if we have to change it, maybe update the JDK that we're using, super easy. And then everybody gets updated. I don't have to send an email or Slack message. All right, now all the releases have to be on this JDK.
I love it.
Really easy.
Love it.
That's definitely one of the use cases, and I'm glad that you find it useful. Thank you for that. I think on this optimistic note, it's much better than the last time we tried. It's time to say thank you for our great guest, Robert. Thank you so much for doing that. We appreciate it. I think it's a great episode. We had some tiny problems with network and sound and what's not.
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll fix
it in post. And actually, the episode that we will release on the podcasting platforms will be perfect. Robert, thank you so much for coming.
Well, of course. Hey, guys, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Always a pleasure to hang out with you.
Yeah.
Real It's June 24th in the Americans, July 1st in the European time zone. The tickets are only $20, and it goes to charity fighting coronavirus and COVID-19. There are no reason not to come. I am joined today by two amazing speakers that will speak at Swamp Up. Both Robert and Kat will have amazing sessions. Definitely check out Swamp Up. With that, Robert, thank you very much. Kat, thank you very much. And see you in the next episodes of DevOpsSpeakeasy.
Later.